My name is Avery Collins. I'm 26. And last Thanksgiving, my father looked me straight in the eye and called me a leech right over the dinner I cooked and the electric bill I paid. The sweet potato casserole was still steaming when he told me to leave his house. My mother stared at her plate. My sister froze mid-breath. And in that silence, something inside me broke and then shifted. They thought they were cutting me off. But what they didn't know was, I'd already found their secret upstairs. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by your own family, by the people who were supposed to love you the most. Because what happened after that dinner didn't just end a holiday. It ended the version of me that kept forgiving them. I grew up in a house where silence was the loudest sound, where my father's sighs meant more than words, and my mother's smiles hid the cost of keeping peace. From the outside, the Collins family looked normal. White shutters, a manicured lawn, the smell of barbecue on summer Sundays. Inside, love was measured by who obeyed faster. My little sister, Sky, learned early that being sweet bought her freedom. I learned that being responsible made me invisible. I remember one winter morning when I was 10. It had snowed all night, and the world outside looked clean, untouched. I just found out I'd won a county essay contest. The prize was a $50 bookstore card, huge for me. I ran into the kitchen, cheeks red from excitement, clutching the letter. Dad didn't look up from his newspaper. "That's nice," he muttered. Mom didn't ask to read it. But when Sky wandered in half asleep, they lit up like she'd invented sunlight. I told myself it didn't matter, that being proud of myself was enough. But it carved deeper than I thought. Years passed, and the pattern hardened. Sky got the new phone, the new clothes, the new everything. I got responsibility, the babysitting, the chores, the "you're older, you should know better." I didn't know it then, but that conditioning would follow me into adulthood. In high school, I worked part-time at a diner off Route 9. My first paycheck smelled faintly of coffee and grease. I'd planned to buy a used laptop. Mom said, "That's sweet, honey, but Sky needs a new coat for winter." I gave her the envelope. The following week, Sky showed up to school in a pink parka that everyone noticed. Nobody noticed me handing over my next paycheck too. When I left for college, Dad made a big show of helping me get started. In truth, my scholarships covered almost everything. He liked to tell people he was supporting both daughters. He wasn't wrong, he just left out that one daughter was doing the supporting. After graduation, I landed an entry-level job at an operations firm downtown. I sent money home every month, first out of habit, then out of guilt. Dad's hours at the hardware store kept shrinking. Mom's accounting job seemed stable until it wasn't. 3 months before Thanksgiving, she was laid off. Her voice trembled on the phone. "Just until I find something new," she said. "Could you cover a few bills?" I didn't hesitate. I covered the electric, the water, the internet because Sky needed it for online classes. I even added their cell plan to my name to avoid late fees. Every dollar I sent felt like proof I was a good daughter. I didn't realize I was building their cage and mine. The house started depending on my paycheck. Groceries, gas, the refrigerator. When it died mid-July, I swiped my card without thinking. Sky texted me photos of dinner with a "thanks, sis" caption. Mom texted receipts. Dad stopped texting altogether. When the utility accounts transferred officially into my name, Dad's signature disappeared from everything. At first, I thought it was practical. Later, I saw what it really meant. The more I carried, the less he mattered. And men like Howard Collins don't fade quietly. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I heard him through the open kitchen window while visiting home for dinner. His voice carried across the fence to Mr. Duarte next door. "She acts like she owns the damn place now," he said. "A man loses control of his own house. What's left?" I froze in the driveway, groceries cutting into my palms. He didn't know I was there. But when I heard him say my name, clear as the wind, something inside me twisted. I didn't confront him. I just smiled through dinner, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had. That night, I sat in my car in the dark driveway, engine off, watching the light flicker in their living room. The window glass warped their silhouettes. Mom's hand gestures, Dad's pacing. Even from a distance, I could read their anger like subtitles. I thought it was about pride. I didn't know it was about money. 2 nights after that dinner, I woke to the buzz of my phone. A late payment reminder, electric bill. I frowned. I'd set up autopay. When I logged in, the amount due had doubled. Someone had added a second account under my profile. My parents' address. It wasn't the first time they'd blurred lines between mine and ours. But this time, I felt a twinge of unease. I told myself I'd ask Mom about it in the morning. I never got the chance. The next day, she called first. Her voice was syrup sweet. Honey, I went ahead and linked our utilities to your plan. It just keeps everything simpler, you know? Simpler? For who? I wanted to ask. Instead, I said, okay, just this month. Just this month turned into 3. By mid-November, my savings had thinned from comfort to concern. I started skipping takeout lunches, canceling streaming subscriptions, counting groceries by unit price again. Still, whenever I thought of cutting them off, guilt hit like a fist. What kind of daughter walks away when her family's struggling? The kind who doesn't yet know she's being used. Thanksgiving week arrived. I spent the morning in their kitchen, sleeves rolled up, basting turkey, mashing potatoes, whipping cream for pie. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted butter home, or at least the version I'd been chasing all my life. Mom played hostess, arranging napkins, humming off-key. Dad stayed in the living room, glued to football. Sky hovered near me, helping in quiet bursts before retreating under the weight of the house's tension. When the table was finally set, I felt something like peace. My hands were sticky with sugar and sweat, but my heart was warm. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe we'd eat, laugh, forget the undercurrent of resentment. I should have known better. After dessert, I decided to share my good news. My boss offered me a promotion. I said, smiling, full benefits, salary bump, maybe even a team of my own. Mom's fork froze midair. That's nice, she said flatly. Dad didn't even look up from carving more turkey. Promotion? Huh? Guess that means you'll be moving out soon. The words landed soft but sharp. I hadn't planned. He looked up then, his eyes already hardened. You've been mooching off this house long enough. Sky's glass clinked against her plate. The room went still. I could hear the tick of the old wall clock, the one I'd paid to repair last month. Marlene dropped her napkin, sighing. Howard. He cut her off. No. She needs to hear it. You think paying a few bills makes you queen of the castle? You're nothing but a leech. The word hung in the air like a stench. I felt heat rise to my face, but I didn't argue. I just stared at the flickering candle between us. The wax melting fast, the wick drowning in its own fire. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I couldn't. I sat on my old bed, surrounded by boxes of things that weren't really mine. My eyes landed on the desk drawer, where I kept my files, insurance, receipts, copies of payments. I started sorting through them, more out of habit than purpose. Under the neat stack of envelopes, something odd caught my eye, a bank statement addressed to my father. Paper, not electronic. The date, recent. Curiosity pulled me deeper. I found 3 more, each with rising balances: 4,000, 5, 7. Then a brochure from Harborline Marine. A blue pin circle around down payment, $5,500. Underneath, scrawled in my father's handwriting, scheduled delivery after Thanksgiving. My pulse quickened. The man who'd just called me a leech had been saving secretly for a boat. I kept digging. A small notepad, his blocky handwriting again. November bills, Avery. After bills paid. Weekend, talk. It hit me all at once. They'd been waiting until I paid November's expenses before cutting me out. I sat there, numb, papers trembling in my hands. From the hall, I could hear the low hum of the refrigerator, the one I'd bought in July. Outside, snow had started to fall. Soft, quiet, relentless. I didn't know it then, but that night was the moment I stopped being their provider and started becoming my own witness. The night after Thanksgiving, the house felt colder than the snow outside. Every sound seemed amplified: the creak of floorboards, the drip of the kitchen faucet, the hum of the heater that my paycheck kept running. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the word leech echoing in my mind. The irony burned. I was the one holding this place together, and somehow, I'd become the parasite. By morning, I decided to leave. Quietly, cleanly, no scene, no tears, just gone. But life doesn't let you walk out quietly when you're the only one holding the structure up. When I stepped into the kitchen, Mom was making coffee like nothing had happened. Morning, she said, tone syrupy. You'll still cover the insurance this month, right? I've got that appointment on Tuesday. I looked at her for a long moment. She wouldn't even meet my eyes. Sure, I said finally. My voice didn't sound like mine. I'll take care of it. Her relief was almost insulting. After breakfast, I went back to my room and started packing. Clothes first, then documents. Every time I folded a sweater, my chest tightened. Sky lingered by the door, clutching her mug. "You're really leaving?" she asked softly. I nodded. Dad made it pretty clear. She hesitated, then stepped closer. He said, "They need your room for storage once the boat's delivered." The word boat punched the air out of me. What boat? Sky looked guilty. The one he put the deposit on last month. He said you wouldn't have to see it. I stared at her, numb. You knew? Tears filled her eyes instantly. I wanted to tell you, I swear. But Dad said if I warned you, I'd be next. I wanted to be angry, but she was shaking 17. Still trapped in the same manipulation I'd spent years rationalizing. I just whispered, "It's okay." That night, I sat on my bed sorting receipts, every bill, every item I'd bought for this house. The fridge, the laptop for Sky's classes, even the living room carpet, all with my name, my card, my proof. Each slip of paper felt like a heartbeat, each line of ink a record of how much of myself I'd poured into this house. Then my phone buzzed a message from Mom. "Mom, don't forget to leave your house key. We'll handle the utilities once you're gone." The phrasing made my stomach turn. Once you're gone. Like I was some tenant being evicted. But something in me steadied. If they wanted to handle the utilities, they'd find out just how hard that was without my name attached. I called the electric company first. "I need to remove myself from this account," I said. The woman on the line hesitated. "You're the sole account holder, ma'am. If you remove yourself, service will end." "Exactly," I said. By midnight, I'd called every company, water, internet, insurance, and pulled my name off everything. Each confirmation email felt like another chain snapping loose. I was almost free. Almost. The next morning, I woke to banging on my door. Dad's voice thundered through the hallway. "What the hell did you do?" I opened the door to find him holding a shut-off notice, his face crimson. "You cut the power," he barked. "You want your mother to freeze?" "It's not my name anymore," I said quietly. He stepped closer, close enough for me to smell the coffee on his breath. "Ungrateful. After all we've done for you." My jaw tightened. "You mean after all I've paid for you?" His eyes darkened, but I didn't flinch. For the first time in years, I didn't back down. He spat the word like venom. "You're lucky I don't throw you out right now." I picked up my suitcase, brushed past him, and said, "You already did." As I walked down the driveway, snowflakes caught in my hair. Behind me, I heard the doors slam, the sound hollow and final. But as I reached my car, my phone buzzed a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was calm, male, businesslike. "Miss Collins, this is Harborline Marine. Just confirming delivery of the Seacraft 420 for Mr. and Mrs. Collins this Saturday. You'll be listed as co-signer, correct?" My blood ran cold. "I what?" He hesitated. "That's what the paperwork says. Howard Collins and Avery Collins, joint purchase." I ended the call, hands shaking. My father hadn't just lied, he'd used my credit. And now, I wasn't just their provider. I was their collateral. I sat frozen in my car, the engine idling, the phone still glowing in my hand. My father hadn't just stolen from me, he'd built his freedom on my name. I called the number back, pretending to confirm details. The man said, "We'll need your signature on pickup day, Miss Collins. Mr. Collins mentioned you'd bring the check." My voice barely held steady. "Right. I'll be there." I hung up and stared at the snowy windshield until my reflection blurred. If I'd stayed silent, they would have anchored that boat to my credit and sunk me with it. That night, I drove to Jordan's apartment. When she opened the door, I could barely speak. "Can I stay here for a while?" Her answer was immediate. "Of course." Theo looked up from the couch, his golden retriever wagging its tail. "We've got a spare room, and Moose doesn't charge rent." It was the first time I'd laughed in days. But freedom came with noise. My phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from Mom, voicemails from Dad, even a call from Aunt Lilla. Each one more accusing than the last. "Mom, you left us with no heat. What's wrong with you?" "Dad, you're destroying this family. Your parents are heartbroken. Come to my house this weekend, we'll talk." Talkman ambush. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I spent the next morning canceling everything I could auto-pays. Linked cards, joint plans. Every call was another layer peeled off the life I'd built around them. That afternoon, Sky texted me from school. Sky, Mom's been calling around about your bank. Says she needs to check something. Don't give her info. I stared at the message, heartbeat thudding. Then, as if on cue, I got an email alert. Password reset attempt from an unrecognized device. They weren't just angry, they were digging. By the second day, it escalated. My mother's voice appeared on my voicemail, shrill and teary. You can't just abandon your family like this, Avery. Your father's humiliated. The neighbors are talking. How could you do this to us? Do this to them. The irony was sharp enough to taste, but nothing prepared me for what came next. 3 days later, while I was at work, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Miss Collins, the man said. This is Riverfront Pawn. Just confirming we received the Canon camera and MacBook under your name. My throat went dry. You have what? He paused. A woman named Marlene Collins sold them. Said she had authorization. She used an ID looked valid. I drove straight there. My hands were trembling so hard the key almost slipped from the ignition. The shop smelled of metal and dust. Behind the counter, the clerk looked startled when I showed him my ID. Oh, he said. You're that Collins. I didn't need the footage to guess what happened, but he offered to show me anyway. The security video flickered to life. My mother, standing confidently at the counter, handing over Sky's ID. Her nails perfectly manicured, her smile calm. When I left the shop, the world tilted. My mother had pawned my property and dragged my sister into it. Back at the apartment, Jordan found me sitting on the floor, surrounded by folders, receipts, and photos. They used my name for a boat, I said, voice hollow. And now they've stolen my things. She knelt beside me. Then it's time you stop being their victim and start being your own witness. Her words stuck. That night, I wrote everything down: dates, amounts, call logs, screenshots. The truth lined up in black and white. 2 days later, the pounding on the apartment door started. Open this door right now. My father's voice was unmistakable, loud, furious, unhinged. Theo froze mid-step. Moose started barking. Jordan whispered, "Stay back." But I couldn't. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Howard Collins stood there, red-faced, pounding so hard the doorframe shook. You think you can just walk away? You ruined everything. Sir, you need to leave. Jordan called through the door. He kicked the lock once, twice it splintered. Moose barked louder. Across the hall, Mrs. Klein's door creaked open. I'm calling security, she shouted. Minutes later, a guard appeared, followed by flashing red and blue lights outside. Howard backed away as 2 police officers approached. Sir, step away from the door. She's my daughter, he yelled. This is family business. Not when you're breaking property and making threats, the officer replied. They cuffed him right there in the hallway, while Mrs. Klein filmed quietly on her phone. When the officers asked if I wanted to press charges, my answer came without hesitation. Yes. That one word felt like exhaling, after years of holding my breath. As they led him away, I caught his eyes for the last time, rage giving way to something smaller. Fear, maybe, or disbelief that I wasn't his victim anymore. Later that night, Sky texted again. Says you made Mom's freaking out. Says you made Dad look crazy. She sold your stuff because she thought you owed them. Be careful. I stared at the screen, realizing there was nothing left to lose except myself. And I wasn't about to let them take that, too. 3 days after my father's arrest, Officer Ningwen called. Miss Collins, he said, we've finished processing the report. You're free to retrieve your remaining property at your parents' residence. We'll have an escort present. It was time. Saturday morning. A gray chill hung over the street as the patrol car followed me to the house I'd once called home. The drive felt endless. Every turn of the wheels pulled memories from the asphalt: birthday balloons, arguments, grocery bags heavy with guilt. When we pulled into the driveway, I saw the blinds twitch. Marlene answered the door, lips painted, eyes red-rimmed but dry. Avery, she said, voice brittle. You didn't have to bring police. This is family. Family doesn't pawn their child's laptop, I said quietly. Officer Nguyen stepped forward, his tone even. Mrs. Collins, we're here to supervise as Miss Collins retrieves personal belongings documented in her report. Her mouth tightened. Fine. But she's not taking everything. Inside, the house felt smaller. Stale air mixed with the faint scent of my old perfume, the ghost of who I used to be. I walked down the hallway past framed photos. Sky's graduation, Dad holding a fishing trophy. A family Christmas where I'd been the one behind the camera. I was always the one behind the camera. My old bedroom door was shut. When I opened it, the air hit me dust, cold, the faint whiff of lavender detergent. The bedspread I'd bought was gone, replaced by storage boxes. But my desk still stood against the window, the drawers half open like they'd been searched. I pulled out my folder proof of every payment, every purchase, every receipt. Officer Nguyen flipped through them. You kept everything, he murmured. Every single one, I said. Because they never did. Marlene hovered in the doorway. You can't take that desk, it belongs to the house. I held up the receipt with her signature on the delivery slip. No, Mom, it belongs to me. Her expression cracked for the first time, something fragile flickering behind the mask. As I packed, I could hear the muffled voices outside, neighbors whispering, the hum of gossip starting its engines. The Collins drama, unfolding live. When I stepped into the living room, I froze. A car had just pulled into the driveway. My car. The one I'd parked safely at Jordan's place. My father climbed out, shaking a spare key between his fingers like a weapon. His face was flushed, jaw tight, voice booming. You think you can just take everything and leave us with nothing? Officer Nguyen moved instantly, hand raised. Sir, stay where you are. This car's mine. Howard barked. I paid for her college, her braces, her damn life. I have a right. I reached into my folder and pulled out the title and registration, both under Avery Collins. I handed them to the officer without a word. Nguyen glanced at the papers, then at Howard. Sir, this vehicle is registered solely to your daughter. You need to hand over the keys. Howard's face drained of color. That's ridiculous. The keys, Mr. Collins, Nguyen repeated. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, Howard dropped the keys into the officer's palm. The soft jingle might as well have been a gunshot. I took them back, fingers steady. Come near me or my property again, I said, my voice calm but cutting, and I'll file for a permanent restraining order. The look on his face, shock, disbelief, maybe even grief, would have broken me once. Now, it just confirmed I was done. Marlene's voice cracked from the porch. Avery, stop this. You're destroying the family. No, I said. I'm just refusing to be destroyed with it. Behind us, Officer Nguyen's radio crackled. Unit 14, situation contained. As I loaded the last box into my trunk, I caught a glimpse of Mrs. Henderson across the street, phone in hand, watching without pretending not to. Somewhere in that crowd of eyes, the story was already rewriting itself. Then, something caught my eye. A stack of unopened mail on the hallway table, insurance documents. The top envelope, half-torn, was addressed to me. My name. I picked it up. Inside was a dental insurance claim form. Patient, Marlene Collins. Policyholder, Avery Collins. Procedure, cosmetic implants. The weight of it hit me like a wave. They hadn't just used my name, they'd been using my identity, my credit, my life. I slipped the paper into my folder. We're done here, I told the officer. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and slow. The same quiet snow from that night I found the boat papers, but it didn't feel suffocating anymore. Howard stood on the porch, hands clenched at his sides. The man who once towered over me, now small against the gray sky. Marlene hovered behind him, her perfect lipstick trembling. As I pulled out of the driveway, my headlights caught Sky in the doorway, half hidden. She lifted a hand, hesitant, but certain. I raised mine back. In the rearview mirror, the house shrank, then disappeared, and for the first time in my life, the silence around me wasn't theirs, it was mine. 3 months later, I woke to quiet. Not the heavy, suffocating silence of my parents' house, but a peaceful one. The kind that smells like fresh paint and coffee. My new apartment wasn't much secondhand furniture, thrifted dishes, one teal wall I painted myself. But everything here was mine. The bills lined up neatly on my desk. Electricity, water, internet, renter's insurance, all in my name. All paid on time. For once, the numbers reflected only me. Jordan and Theo had helped me move the last of my things in January. Moose had slobbered over every box like he was christening a new beginning. That morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains as I opened my laptop and logged into my new bank account clean, unlinked, untouched. The balance wasn't much, but it was steady, growing. My emergency fund reborn from ashes. A notification pinged. A new email from Miss Reynolds, my manager. Avery, you handled the audit flawlessly. We'd like you to lead the loss prevention initiative next quarter. Loss prevention. The irony almost made me laugh. For years, I'd been patching leaks in a sinking ship called family. Now, I was getting paid to stop it from happening anywhere else. Still, some nights I'd catch myself scrolling through old texts. My mother's endless guilt trips, my father's accusations. They used to burn. Now, they barely registered. One afternoon, while organizing files for my case, I noticed a new envelope slipped under my door. No return address. My stomach twisted as I tore it open. Inside were 5 sealed letters, each from my parents, postmarked weeks apart. None had ever been delivered until now. I stared at them for a long time. The weight of them felt heavier than the paper should allow. I didn't open them. Instead, I slipped them into a folder labeled documentation. Not revenge, just record. Because the truth was, they'd already written their own downfall. The foreclosure notice had come through last week. Their house now under bank possession, the same house I'd paid to keep alive. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just saved the notice, filed it next to every receipt, every call log, every photo, proof not of what they took but of what I survived. They thought cutting me off would ruin me. But all they really did was free me to keep the evidence. And one day if they ever tried to rewrite history again, I'd have the files ready. Because this time, the story would be mine. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, you're not alone. Sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. I used to think loyalty meant sacrifice, but I've learned that real love doesn't demand your silence or your savings. So, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop a comment if you've ever had to rebuild yourself from nothing. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because my story isn't over. And if you stay, you'll see what happens when the people who tried to break me finally face what they created.